Kevin's not here, so you might think that we're shorthanded, but let me tell you, we got a full squad here. We got Shane producing, Reggie Geary ready on the other end. Let's start it now. AZ Wildcats Podcast in 30 seconds. Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats Podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall, coming to you live from PHNX HQ up here in downtown Phoenix. And we are thrilled to be joined by Arizona Wildcat legend, Arizona Wildcat color analyst, former basketball coach, Reggie Geary. Thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate your time, sir.
No, Dane, thanks, man. Anytime I come on Arizona Wildcat Podcast, man, it's an exciting day. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you were obviously in the building last night in Waco, and I guess that we'll kind of just start there. It's somewhat of a new building, the newest arena here in the Big 12. What were your initial thoughts being in that building? I don't know if it was your first time there or if you'd been in there before, but just kind of run us through just the venue, I guess.
Yeah, it was my first time in Waco, first time in the Baylor Arena, and it was a smaller arena. That was the first thing you noticed that, coming from, we were BYU 2 weeks ago at 18,000. Obviously, McHale Center is about 15,005, and so to walk into an arena that's about 9,000, actually maybe less than that, was pretty interesting, and it reminds you of the old Key Arena, now called the Pledge Arena up in Seattle, but very loud. Very intimate, like the student section's right behind the bench and us as the radio broadcaster. So it just creates a lot of good noise. It's a good arena for that size.
Yeah, I think I saw last night that it only fits about like 7,500, which is a very, very small amount. It's crazy to think about that like a modern arena would be built in that capacity, but it seems like it works for them because as you mentioned, it like gets pretty loud in there. And yeah, Baylor fans, I mean, they show up and they show out, that's for sure. But did you feel the effects of that on the team last night? Was that did you think, hey, they look like they're playing in a road environment and maybe that contributed a little bit to, the shooting night or, just kind of the Baylor comeback in general, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Arizona, we're used to going in hostile environments. It seems like, we always kind of laugh, we're the traveling circus. So anytime Arizona's coming into town, the opposing team, they're gonna come out. They're gonna fill it up. It's gonna be loud and energetic. So I think the guys are used to that. That just kind of comes with being the Arizona brand. So I didn't really see anything there. They didn't get sped up too much. I didn't think at times. They seem to be comfortable in the situation. It's just another loud arena. Big 12, we found out, is much different than the Pac 12. Every night, every arena, you're going to see great crowds, a lot of enthusiasm. And so it just makes it a lot of fun to play in.
Yeah, how has that transition for the Big 12 kind of just being in and around the program? Do you see that, I guess, kind of come to fruition on a nightly basis? Like, I know that the Big 12 oftentimes kind of, they on their commercials for their basketball in particular, they say like every game is a tournament game. Is that like that? We feel that as fans, no doubt. But do you guys feel that in and around the program as well?
Yeah, I think without question, it felt like a tournament game last night. We had big time officials, great crowd. We have two really competitive and physical teams, and so night in, night out, you don't get a day off. I mean, you can go through, all the teams in the Big 12 right now, and they're just not an easy out. As Kansas, and they just lost to Utah, the other day, or you can just kind of go down and down. Just the physicality, the players are there, the crowds are there, and so it just makes it for a great challenge, a fun environment. But every night you got to bring it. If not, you can get caught.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned like even some of the bottom teams in the conference are, really competitive teams. A team like Baylor, they're a really good basketball team. They're 8-7 in this conference right now, which is it just goes to show the depth in this conference and just kind of the night in, night out, style that it takes because you have teams like, Cincinnati 5-9 and they were preseason in the top 25. They're a very talented team. Kansas State, they're picking it up recently, lost to Utah last night, but they haven't been getting off to the hottest of starts. They have a lot of talent on that roster. So yeah, I mean, it's super interesting just kind of the dichotomy of going from the Pac-12 where Arizona just kind of ran through the conference year in and year out and without much struggle, didn't feel like it was preparing the team that well for later in the season. And now you get to the Big 12 and it's just the exact opposite of that. And so do you feel like, and I guess I'll preface this by saying, like, I personally, the moment that the move to the Big 12 was made, I thought to myself, wow, this is really going to help Arizona and Tommy Lloyd late in the season kind of get this team to its ceiling of where they need to go. Just battle tested. You've seen a lot of teams that are tournament caliber teams. Do you guys feel that way as well? Like, is this kind of a situation where the Big 12 feels like while maybe the record is worse throughout the season, the preparation that it's going to breed out of Arizona is going to be ideal for this team?
No, I really think it is ideal in terms of just being battle tested. That you've gone through all of these wars in Arizona. We've always done traditionally. We've always done a great job of the non-conference schedule, making sure we have one of the toughest schedules every year. So we've kind of found ways to do that. But now being that the Big 12 is so competitive, you're going to you're going to get a ton of quad one games, a ton of physical games. So it's twofold. Yeah, you're battle tested. You're going to see a lot of quality team and players and coaches as you make your way to the league tournament and NCAA tournament. But also you got to be really careful because it's murderer's row. You can get beat up
Yeah.
here. You can get beat up before you can get there, and we're seeing that. People getting nicked up. Rotations being 8 and 7 people, and so it's really a battle of survival. But if you're able to get through it, if you're able to come through it healthy and improving day by day, yes, you'll be playing your best ball at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I want to talk about is just kind of the development of the big men throughout this season. You've obviously been along for every step of the way, and I think going into this year, you look at a guy like Toby Awaka, you didn't really expect, I don't think, much of a scoring output necessarily from him, but he's really picked that aspect up of his game recently. Henry Vasar was kind of third on that big man depth chart going into the season, and has really come on and shown a lot of just I would say potential, but also just it's not just the potential. He's really like impacting these games at a high level as well. So just kind of what can you say about these two bigs and just how they've developed along this season? And we see it last night in the form of 14 and 12 points respectively from the two of them. Two of the leading point scorers on the team. So yeah, just how is this big man development? How is it, kind of gone about in your case or in your opinion?
Yeah, I think the development of the post have really have been a pleasant surprise this year. Going into the season, we thought Mo Krivas was going to get a lot of those minutes. Mo, there was he's a big body, he's like 7'2", he's huge, and then he goes out with a foot injury and he's done for the season. And now we're looking around like what are we going to do? And then Tobe came in with a great reputation from Tennessee in terms of just the physicality and the size, but just didn't really show a lot of production there or the ability to stay on the floor. And he has been fantastic this year. I mean, he's literally been the muscle for Arizona almost night in, night out. I think last night he had his sixth double of the season. He's been a consistent scorer. More importantly, he's been a great offensive rebounder. I mean, he's getting almost 3 a game. And so we're finding out if you don't have a body, if you don't have someone who can match up size wise with him, he can pretty much dominate the paint and really, secure a lot of rebounds for Arizona. So he's been a godsend so far for this year and for Tommy. Henry Vasar, came in with a lot of accolades. Here's a young man who is playing for the Real Madrid club team in Spain. If he was an American, he probably would have been a 5-star and maybe even considered a one and done. And then when we got him here, I thought we started looking like I don't necessarily think he's ready. Physically, he wasn't ready. Mentally, he wasn't ready. And then he goes into his second year and he has the injury where he breaks his hand and he sits out the second year, which might really be a blessing for him because it gave him an opportunity to kind of just study the game and kind of watch it from afar. And this year we've seen a different Henry Vasar. And more when I say different, his attitude. Like he's got a little fire in the eyes now. And we saw that earlier that he was fighting back and he was struggling a little bit, but you knew that he was going to work his way through it. And ever since Big 12 League started, he has been fantastic. He's been consistent. He's provided great length on the defensive end. We have a shot blocker now, someone defensively who can cause a lot of problems. Offensively, he's finishing at the rim. He's dunking on people. He's got like 3 or 4 bodies this year, which is crazy. He's a good scorer. I think developing the three. I think he had one last night, but he
Yep.
can really develop that three and become a consistent shooter. He'll really be that unicorn that everybody thought he was.
Yeah, I think for my money, Henry Vasar has been the most fun player to watch this season, just based off of, I guess, expectations versus where reality has gotten us. Because yeah, I didn't expect a whole lot going into the season from Henry Vasar, but I think it gives me confidence that Tommy Lloyd can get a guy who looks a little bit out of his depth out there. Like Henry did in his first season in the United States playing basketball here in this country, and then turn him into this kind of this monster. And he isn't the full form of Henry Vasar yet. I think that the potential is through the roof, but one thing that I do think when watching him is just that he's so aggressive, right? He always is looking to dunk on somebody. He's always looking to block a shot. Like I always go back to the ASU game a few weeks ago here, but like Jaden Quaintance dunked on his head, but he's not shying away from that kind of meeting at the rim of sorts. Like he wants that pressure and he wants that challenge. And then he came back and gave it right back to him a couple times. So, I think that's important. Like he's not getting dunked on and being like, oh my God, like turning into more of it, crawling into his shell and whatnot, getting a little bit more timid. He's kind of using it to like rejuvenate him of sorts. And I just love that mentality from Henry Vasar. I think the sky is the absolute limit with that guy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think he's starting to pop up on NBA radar. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned, I think if that ASU play happens 2 years ago, I think he does go into a shell and kind of looks around. But now, like I said, we're seeing a different Henry right now, and it's great to see. I think and that's how it is sometimes with international players. They're not used to American style of basketball. It's obviously we're a more aggressive, a more physical, more one-on-one style than you would see overseas, and so he was probably used
Mhm.
to sharing the basketball a little bit and maybe being the best athlete on the floor most nights. And he kind of came here, and it can be a shock to the system. And like I said, I think he's just had an opportunity to kind of watch American culture, watch the American basketball game, and he's really adapted well.
Yeah, he absolutely has. And I guess I'll use that, and I don't want to like crush the team here, but like one thing that hasn't really transitioned well as we go from the Pac-12 to the Big 12 here is I'd say the 3-point scoring and just kind of the outside perimeter shooting in general. Do you think that is? I'm sure that the answer is somewhere more in the middle, but do you think that we can attribute this primarily to the changing in conferences, or do you think that this is just a kind of a case of a guy like Caleb Love struggling, a guy like KJ Lewis having a that hand slash wrist injury? Jaden Bradley's never really been that type of shooter. So do you think that it's, I guess the question is, do you think Tommy Lloyd and the profiles that he recruited for this team, it's kind of brought away that 3 points shooting in general, or do you think that it's more of that move to the conference?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I think Tommy would take all those individuals knocking down threes, and last I looked, in all honesty, the rims and the height of the rim and all that hasn't changed in the Pac-12 to the Big 12, so nothing's really changed. It just happens some years. It's just the way this roster configuration is set up. Going into the year, that was one of the questions. We were losing some guys. Paul Larson was an excellent shooter, but just looking at this year's team, when we were looking at the roster of Bradley, KJ Lewis, and Caleb Love, we knew shooting potentially could be an issue, and so for it to play out the way it is, not a surprise. Obviously, We wish things were going better there. But it is what it is. They're just not shooting a great percentage right now, but they've adjusted. They've realized that, hey, that's okay. We're going to just crush with points in the paint, and we're going to win the free throw game. And they've done that. And so hopefully the three arrives at some point. We would like to see those guys shoot better, especially the way Arizona moves the basketball. They end up with a lot of really good looking threes for the most part.
Yeah.
Caleb Love, is forced to take a lot of tough threes, and he gets a lot of flack for that. But he has to take tough shots for this Arizona team. So going forward, I don't think we're going to be shooting 33s like BYU or some of these other teams out there. But we'll get them up. Hopefully they'll go down, and if they're not, then let's get downhill and attack the paint.
Yeah, I want to stick there with Caleb Love for a second because I agree with you personally. And I've kind of been in Caleb Love's corner all season, despite I think a lot of this fan base, I think, has been, I don't want to say fed up, but they've been like, the expectations for a guy like Caleb Love, especially after winning Pac-12 Player of the Year last year, I think are through the roof, right? And people expect greatness in Arizona basketball. That's just the reality of things. So when he struggles from a shooting perspective and everybody thinks of him as a shooter, I think it's very loud, but I do agree with you. Like, you're right. He takes difficult shots. He has to take difficult threes. And that's just kind of his role on this team. If he doesn't take any threes, then Arizona's shooting about 33% less threes per game as a team. And then all of a sudden, teams aren't respecting the perimeter scoring as much. The paint gets packed a little bit more. I think we saw that against Kansas State, right, where Arizona couldn't hit any threes. So Kansas State stopped respecting them completely, and the paint just got completely dried up because, they were putting just bodies in the paint, right? So I think Caleb Love, yeah, absolutely, it hasn't been the best go of it from a three-point shooting perspective this year, but I wouldn't be one to like close the book on him improving that. I don't know if you disagree with that or not, but I definitely think that he has the opportunity. Like, some of these looks are good looks. He's just missing them, right? And I think, as you just got to hope he hits them late in March. Really, that's what it comes down to.
No, exactly. For whatever reason, Caleb's polarizing. Going back to his North Carolina days, either you love him or hate him. Last year, man, he was fantastic. Great. I think he was a great player, a great teammate, a great citizen. He did everything I think Tommy asked of him and more, and it was reflective on the court. I think why he can be frustrating to some people is he's not a streaky scorer. He's a streaky scorer by games. Like, he can go on a 3 or 4 game run where he's efficient. He's in his 20 plus, point average. He's getting like 5, 6, 7 assists some night. He's an underrated passer. People don't give him enough credit for his passing.
Yeah.
And defensively, he's been better. So he goes on these runs where you see it like over like 2 weeks. He has 4 20-point games, and then he has these games where he has 3 or 4 games in a row where he goes and he's shooting 5 for 20 and 5 for 16, and he's missing some looks. And so people just have to just wrap their brains around it. That's Caleb Love. That's what he's going to do for this team in terms of he's a volume shooter. He's a volume shooter. He's going to have nights that he's going to be on, he's going to be off. But the big thing is, and I know this, the whole team wants him to continue to keep shooting the basketball because, as you mentioned, he's that one real threat to not only hit threes, but throw a big number, a 25 on there, maybe even a 30. So Caleb Love is fine. Yes, we all want to see the ball go in. No more than probably Caleb Love wants to see the ball go in. He's just a volume guy, and he's our guy, and we want him to knock him down.
Yeah, and I think that the way in which Arizona has been able to build off of, or maybe not build off of, but work around Caleb Love's somewhat inefficient scoring this year is really encouraging, right? Because if Caleb Love's going to be hitting shots, I don't know if there's any team in the country that can beat this team. The way that they play defense, especially, but we haven't necessarily seen that in a very consistent form this season. But Arizona's still winning a lot of basketball games, especially here in conference play, and that's good to see. We are gonna ask Reggie Geary more questions about last night's game, but most importantly, what went down with the whole Norchad Omier, Brian Jefferies situation. We're gonna get to that on the other side of this break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. I am ready to talk to you guys about my friends over at Carol Royce Team. If you're looking to sell your home in 2025, head on over to the Carol Royce Team because guess what? They're going to treat you like family. We love our friends over at Carol Royce. They've helped sell and get people in their new homes in over 20,000 homes here in the Valley. And that's a big number, Shane. I'd call that a crooked number. I don't know about you. But yeah, if you're looking to buy or sell your home in the near future, do yourself a favor and add Carol Royce to your list of agents to talk to, because it could literally save you thousands of dollars. She does this thing where she pays you the difference on market value if she isn't able to sell your home for the price, right? And I don't know if you'll find a better guarantee in realty. So, hit up her phone number. It's going to be available to you if you head on over to that website and seek it out there. And when it's time to sell your home, make the smart play. Call Carol Royce or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com. That's carolroyceteam.com. Terms and conditions apply. Now to talk about one of my favorite sponsors on the AZ Wildcats podcast. It's our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Gila River is just a magical, magical place. I'm headed to Vegas in a couple weeks here for a bachelor party of sorts. And you know what? I wish it was here in the Valley, here at one of my favorite casinos, and that's going to be Wild Horse Pass Casino, where we do a lot of our watch parties at. But I love Wild Horse Pass. And yeah, I said it. It's better than Vegas. It smells better. It's nicer. It's good for a little staycation. And they got all the amenities as well, whether that's the spa, the pool, the concert venues, and of course, all the live table games and slots out there on the floor. Doesn't get any better than that at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Get ready to rev your engines for the $350,000 Lamborghini Lux giveaway. And every Friday in January and February, you have a chance to win cash, free bonus play, or qualify for the grand finale drawing. At 7 p.m., that's what those drawings are going to be. The grand finale drawing is going to be Saturday, March 1st at Wild Horse Pass, where one lucky winner is going to drive away in that new Lamborghini. So don't miss out on your chance. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details, or check out the link in the description below. All right, Reggie, we got you back in here, and I teased it going into that last ad break. Norchad Omier, he's one of the better players in college basketball. Really, really good basketball player. Lots of experience. Was on a Final Four team over at Miami, and despite some foul issues, he's been good this year for Baylor. But he goes playing hard, flying into the stands last night, right? And trying to save a ball going from out of bounds. And it happens to be right next to you and Arizona Wildcats play-by-play broadcaster and legend Brian Jefferies. And he kind of knocks Brian's glasses off, I believe, as he's flying into the stands there. So can you just kind of give us your firsthand recap of what went down and what it was like being, a couple feet from that?
Yeah, it was just one of those moments. I could say, Norchad Omier is about 6'7", 250. For everyone who doesn't know, this is a large human being,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been kind of the anchor for Baylor this year. And here's this loose ball, and it's coming towards the scores table, and I'm kind of anticipating, like, I think this guy, I think he's coming, and he comes towards us, and Norchad, just to his credit, he Superman's over the top of the scores table, right at Brian. I try to give Brian a little help, a little deflection there, and Omir's over the top there, and I think his foot catches Brian's his microphone and kind of like his lip, and so we kind of laughed. I know Brian. Some people on radio said they didn't know what was going on. They just kind of hear this noise and muffling, and Brian pops up and says, "Am I bleeding?" But he took it like a champ. He's been doing this for 40 years. Brian, he's the voice of the Wildcats. I asked him, has that ever happened before? And he had a hard time remembering, but I like to think that, his life flashed before his eyes there for a second as he saw this huge individual coming for this ball. But it just made for just one of those moments that, it happens during a basketball game.
No chance, right? If Brian Jefferies is in fact bleeding there, no chance he's taking off the headset and not finishing that game, right? He's battling
No,
through it,
no.
isn't he?
100%. But like I said, I totally took the charge. I thought he was there. But like he's been doing this since, going back to for Coach Olson's first year. He's a consummate professional. The show definitely would have gone on. And so I'm just glad he's okay and we were able to continue.
So you think the feet were set, is what you're telling me?
Oh, without question, we were sitting there. We were waiting on the action. So I think he did take it, but like I say, he got himself off the floor, picked himself up, and we continued on. And like I said, I'm just glad everybody was okay.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. Glad everybody was okay. But yeah, the feet were set there. Brian Jefferies did in fact have positioning there, and we're calling a charge on Norchad Omier. It's got to feel nice though. I don't know if you saw any of the online discourse after that moment happened. Uh, People on Twitter were up in arms, man. They were ready to go to war for our guy Brian Jefferies, me included. My guy Kevin Thomas, who's out on vacation today, included. Like we grabbed our pitchforks and our torches, and we were ready to go storm down Waco and defend our guy.
I love it. Let's go, Wildcat Nation. I love everybody standing up for my guy.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. Uh, Before we get you out of here, Reggie, I just want to ask you a couple more quick questions. Obviously, you played guard at Arizona in a time where point guard U was at its height, right? You played with some really good point guards and guards in your own right, and you were one as well. How do you kind of see these guards on that scale, right? Do you think that a guy like Jaden Bradley fits into that point guard U moniker that Arizona has become so well known for? A guy like Caleb Love, even like, are these players like are they the proverbial baton? Did they get passed to them? I should say.
Yeah, I think there has been a little passing baton. I think these guys would have fit in great back in the late '80s, '90s, 2000s. Just knowing them off the court and kind of how and their work ethic on the court. I think they would have fit in well. When I look at this team, I go back to my '94 team. We were really Coach Olson's first three guard offense. Damon Stoudemire, Khalid Reeves, and myself. Very reminiscent to a Jaden Bradley, KJ Lewis, and Caleb Love. Caleb Love would be Khalid Reeves. Jaden Bradley would be a Damon Stoudemire, and KJ Lewis were more similar in terms of being defensive specialists. And so I love playing with that three guard offense, four guard offense, where you have that ability to take it off the board or get a steal and can really push from a lot of different ways. And in all honesty, their scoring average is about the same as the '94 team. We were maybe just a little bit more, but a lot of similarities. Really proud of these guys. They come in, they work every day. As I mentioned, they're really, really good young men, and they have bright futures.
Yeah, it seems like this locker room is full of just good dudes, right? And it feels like that's like a big reference point for Tommy Lloyd when he's recruiting these players is character fits. And I got to be honest, this team feels like they're like super locked in from an outside perspective. Even like that, they all know their roles and they just want to win, right? It's not about personal accolades. Even I feel like a guy like Caleb Love, who maybe unfairly gets some of those things put on him. He's not like that at all by all accounts. Everyone around Caleb Love says he's a team first guy. He wants to improve his defense, as you mentioned earlier. He's gotten better at passing as well. So it's like the team aspect of things. Caleb he's doing everything he can to contribute to winning at the highest level. Do you get that kind of close knit? Everybody trying to find their role. Is that a vibe that you get from being a little bit closer to that locker room than maybe me or the average fan would maybe perceive?
Yeah, these guys definitely get along. They definitely get along off the court. You can see on the court how that plays out. They're always having fun. I think, I hope it's not giving away too much. They're a big Uno team. They play this electronic Uno. It seems a lot of time in the back of the bus. So there's a lot of chatter going on. So the environment's good. And I give a lot of the credit to Tommy. He's a player's coach. He's created an atmosphere where guys are relaxed, can come in and kind of do their thing and really grow as individuals. And I think that's how it was when Coach Olson was here. So I love to see the guys enjoying themselves. I think when players are happy and they're working hard, you're going to get good results, and that's what's occurring right now. So, and you need that because the season is so long. There's so many ebbs and flows, ups and downs to a season that Tommy's done a good job of saying, hey, I'm going to be with this individual for 4 years. Day in, day out, we're going to be touching our guys in terms of just making sure they're all right, making sure they're in the gym, making sure they're doing well in the classroom. And I think the players, they feel that love coming from Tommy and staff, and that's why they're so close.
Yeah, no doubt about that. You obviously have had a long, extensive coaching career, and now you're, doing some more broadcasting work. How has that transition been for you, and what's it like, kind of settling back down in Tucson here, rather than kind of just being all over the country in different places? Has it been a little bit of a maybe a positive change of pace, more chill?
No, I mean Tucson's great. We love it here. My family and I, I have two sons and my wife, and we loved here. After I left the university, U of A in '96, I played pro ball 9 years, second round draft choice in the NBA. So I played in the NBA for a few years, went overseas for a few more. Tucson was always my off season home. I would spend time between here and California, and then after my 9 year playing career, I went into coaching. I coached 14 years, and luckily, one of my first jobs was Coach Olson. He offered me to be an assistant
Yeah.
coach after I retired. And so Tucson again, embraces me, takes me and my family back in. And so, to have those 23 years in professional sports and to kind of pivot away from that to, just want to spend those last few years with my kids before they were out of the house. It's been great. I'm back at the U of A, a place I love. I was fortunate enough to be asked to work with Brian Jefferies, who's an absolute pro. And
Yep.
so I get to keep my coaching hat on a little bit. I'm sitting close to the action. It keeps me alive. It's been really a true blessing to work in development where I can support the life cycle of student athlete and providing resources for them, and then also to have this where I can be with the team and it can work that coaching side of my brain and just be around a game I love. It's just been so much fun.
Yeah, I did want to ask you about that as well. You are the director of development, and is that's solely for Arizona basketball, correct? That's the for the men's basketball program, or is that an athletic department wide role? Just tell me, I guess, tell me more about your role there.
Yeah, so for the last going on 6 years now, I've been a senior director of development in the Wildcat Clubs. That's the fundraising arm of the U of A athletic department, and
Hmm.
so my major role is to go into the community, spend time with our donors, create relationships, and hopefully bring in some major gifts and donations that support not just basketball but all 22 sports in our program, whether it's scholarships, sports operations, obviously with rev share and some of the student athlete excellence funds that are now coming into the department, which used to be different. So things are changing. There used to be these collectives, these third parties. Now those are all coming internal. The House Act, is kind of going through the courts right now. So the landscape of sports is changing, and the role of development and development officers is becoming even more so important. So I'm just happy that I'm there on the front lines for our AD Desiree Francois for athletics, and the big thing is I can support individuals that were on the same track as me. So when I see the players, I see myself. So if I have an opportunity to provide them in any way, I want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is totally like it's like the Wild West out here with the new changes in NCAA and how things are going. So I'm sure you're always on your toes in that kind of role where you never really know what the next day is going to look like, but it's fun nonetheless. Just kind of final thoughts before we get you out of here, Reggie. Like obviously Arizona wins last night, beats Baylor, holding the lead for majority of that game. Just kind of final takeaways from that win in Waco, I guess.
Yeah, really quality win. Going into that, Baylor was, I believe, 12-1 at home, 6-1 at home in league play. So this was a tough place to go in and get a win. And for Arizona to do that after, having lost the two previous, that says something. Tommy said it. This is a character game for us. I want to see where we're at as a unit. A lot of people think we're gonna, not perform. And for the guys to show up in the way they did that first half, they were sharp. Going against that 1-3-1 zone that Baylor put up there. I mean, they just cut them up. They nearly shot 60% in the first half, and were able to give themselves a lead. That lead they were going to need later. In the second half, Jaden Bradley gets his fourth foul. He's now out of the game, and Baylor starts smelling a little blood in the water there, and they went to attack mode and started getting momentum, and the crowd got into it, and so that lead sustained them until they were able to get Bradley back out there, and then he kind of calmed everybody down, and we were able to get to the finish line with some free throws and some pretty good defense. So really good quality win. I know the NCAA committee is projecting Arizona to be a 3 seed, and if they want to stay on that track, you got to win games like that on the road, because it doesn't get any easier. We have a BYU team coming in here. They're hot right now and looking to, I think, their last four in when we look at the NCAA tournament committee and their projections. And so they're playing for a lot right now. Utah's had some surprise wins. Still have to go on to Ames, Iowa. Still have to go to Fog Allen in Lawrence, Kansas. So there's still a lot of work to be done. So to steal one on the road like they did last night in the fashion they did, very, very good.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Jaden Bradley, as you mentioned, 4 fouls, struggled with foul trouble. But and I think it goes to show that like this team, A lot of different guys can have foul trouble and they can work through it, but Jaden Bradley is one of those dudes where it's like if he's going to be out for extended periods of time, it's going to be interesting for the Wildcats to try to find that how they're going to work through that. So definitely a guy that you don't want to see picking up those fouls, and frankly, it doesn't happen very often, but it did happen in this game, and encouraging that Arizona was able to work through that and still get the W against a good team. Last question here, just because it kind of popped in my head. You've been around a lot of NBA dudes. What was going through your mind watching VJ Edgecomb last night? Because that kid looks pretty special, especially from an athleticism standpoint, because the way he flies to the basket, man, like that looks like an NBA star type of player, to be honest with you.
Yeah, VJ Edgecomb, he's a talented guy. Obviously, he's projected as a top five pick potentially for next year. When I first started watching some tape on him and seeing him, what came to mind was Ben Mathurin.
Yeah.
Just that silky smoothness, that effortless, ability to get off the floor and kind of levitate and hang there like they do. Like last night, their offense, they were just struggling at times. And so they just resorted to say, hey, VJ, just save us in terms of just playing downhill. They're getting
Mm-hmm.
into a lot of middle pick and rolls, and we're finding out he's very, very difficult to guard in those situations. And so, just being as young as he is, and making the game look effortless, you can see why people are excited. But I was excited last night. I'm looking at Carter Bryant, our guy,
Yeah.
and VJ on a couple times matched up. I'm like, man, I think these guys are going to see each other for a long time. So, a lot of NBA guys in the arena last night. I ran into a few. I was talking. They're excited, about some of our players. Obviously, VJ's high on their radar. So, night in, night out, you're going to see future NBA stars. We're going to see another one here with BYU and Edgar Diamond, a 6'9" Russian point guard. He last game he was just every time I looked up he was standing at the rim. So we're going to have to address that in terms of kind of shoring up that middle pick and roll defense. But night in, night out, you're going to see really, really good young talent in Big 12 and VJ and Carter Bryant and Edgar are just further examples.
Yeah, absolutely. The Big 12, man, it's a gauntlet. And I believe they said 35 scouts from 20 NBA teams last night in Waco for that Baylor Arizona game. So big
Yeah.
contingency out there.
I wanted to put on my jersey. I want to. I told them, hey, I got 3, 4, 5 minutes for you guys. If you need a 50-year-old who still can move, they were in the house last night. So to see them, that's good. That's another exciting thing that you got these big crowds. You got all these guys that makes that electricity pops and really has Arizona, really playing well right now.
Yep. Thank you so much, Reggie. We really appreciate your time, man, and taking the long 30-minute interview with us. Much appreciated. Get some sleep. I know you said you're maybe a little bit under the weather, so drink some Pedialyte, and hopefully we can have you back on sometime soon.
Dame, I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. Anytime, I'd love to come back on.
Sounds good. All right, we got a couple more sponsors here we're going to talk about, and we're going to do that on the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm talking about our friends over at Spinato's because that sounds damn good right now, Shane. Not even because it's just the ad read I have to read. I love Spinato's pizza. They brought it into the office a couple weeks ago. And I'll be honest, I need some more of that. Break me off a little bit more of that because Spinato's is just the best place in the valley when it comes to, ordering pizza, getting just the vibes. If you want to go watch a good Suns game over at Spinato's, because it's the place for Suns fans to go watch the Suns games. They're playing horse over there, but they're spelling it Pizza instead of HORSE. You can win a chance. You can have a chance to win free pizza for a year and Suns tickets to the game on April 9th if you join in on that pizza/horse competition. It's great vibes over there. I love our friends over at Spinato's. They have it now inside of the Suns arena as well. I got some Spinato's earlier this season while watching a Suns Heat basketball game. That was absolutely incredible. And it just doesn't get any better than that, guys. Mark your calendar, Suns fans, because the excitement starts at Spinato's. Get all the info on the watch parties and pizza basketball contest at spinatospizzeria.com. Spinato's, the official pizzeria of the Phoenix Suns. We are also talking about our friends over at Circle K. I made a late night stop at Circle K last night, Shane. PHNX Cardinals got me on my workout grind. Wanted to pick up a nice little protein shake on the way home after a post-game show. stopped in, grabbed one with Circle K, typed in my inner circle number to make sure I hit up those rewards, and then got out of there. It was a nice quick stop at America's Thirst Stop. Join the Inner Circle, which is going to be their free membership program. They'll give you 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups at the gas tank. Just an unbelievable price. If you hate saving money, don't sign up for the Inner Circle. But if you love it, like me, like the rest of my PHNX brethren and sisters, save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents per gallon every fill-up after that, until you become a premium member where you'll save 5 cents off per gallon. I found out last night, Shane, Kevin is actually not a premium member, which I was like, I started looking at him a little different. I was like,
how?
I don't know. I was like, oh, really? Like, I was a little disgusted. It's just like nasty. It's like, I don't know, kind of beneath me. But not me. I'm a premium member. So make sure you guys head on over to the Circle K app, join the Inner Circle for free. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. Well, I have it here in the show title. We got into it a little bit with Reggie Geary as he joined us, talking about Arizona's win versus Baylor last night. But I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into just the shooting of this Arizona basketball team, because it's been extremely frustrating to watch. Cost Arizona the game against Kansas State. There's no question about that. In that game, Arizona shoots, this is good podcasting, 9% from 3, but on a total of 2 for 22 from the three-point land, which is just nowhere near good enough. They follow that up with a Houston loss, obviously, in which Arizona only puts 58 points up on the board. Houston only allowing 59 points per game right now, which is the best mark in the Big 12. But Arizona in that game, 5 for 23 from 3 for 21.7%. Houston, not much better, 5 for 17, but they hit a lot of those in the second half and kind of pulled away late because of it. So I guess I did a little bit of a deep dive on with our friends over at KenPom, looking into just all the Tommy Lloyd teams and where they sit from a three-point shooting percentage. And this is by far the worst that has come about in the Tommy Lloyd era. All the rest of these teams are towards the top of college basketball, as we've noted many times on this podcast. There are a grand total of 364 teams in all of college basketball. And as you can see here at the bottom, in 2024-2025, Arizona basketball ranks 311th out of 364 teams from a three-point percentage perspective. It's hard to win games in modern basketball when you're that bad at shooting threes. It's an interesting kind of mix here. It's, and I asked Reggie Geary this question, and his answer was, somewhat what I said, which is it's a little bit down the middle. It's a little bit of both. But is this just Arizona moving to the Big 12? The defensive intensity has ramped up a lot since leaving the Pac-12. These teams are better. It's a more difficult conference to score in, right? We've seen that with Caleb Love, I think, a lot this season. But yeah, I mean, you look into these numbers here, and they're not exactly very encouraging, I would say. Shane, if you wouldn't mind putting the graphic back there on the board, I'll read it off for our people that are our audio podcaster listeners. Arizona three-point shooting in the Tommy Lloyd era in 2021-22, when Tommy Lloyd took over. That was the team with Ben Mathurin and Dalen Terry and whatnot. Arizona shot 35.2% from 3 on 36 attempts per game almost, which was good for 79th in the entire country. Not exceptional, but above average, right? You go into the next season, 22-23, Arizona shoots damn near 38% from 3 that year, 17th in the country, so an elite three-point shooting team. Follow that up in 23-24 last season with a 36.6% three-point percentage, which was 33rd in the entire country. As you can see, the attempts are all somewhat in the general range of mid-30s. So even though the poor shooting this year has come about, Arizona's not really taken any less threes. And then you see here 31% from 3 this season, which, as I already mentioned, that's good for 311th out of 364 teams. That is nowhere near good enough. And if Arizona's going to make a late run in March, they're just going to have to be flat out better than that. 311th out of 364 teams is, I'm looking here at some of the company that they share. It's a lot of Chicago States. It's a lot of Canisiuses, a lot of Lemoynes, Shane. All the teams that we bet on when we get really gross and nasty.
Canisius. Put some respect on Canisius' name.
Schiss. It's a Schiss at the end of it. Sorry, I don't respect Canisius after we beat them by 30 points earlier this season. But yeah, I mean, it's not a stat that you want to be a part of, right? I look at a team like, Arizona State, for example, who, like, Shane, you would say Arizona State not a good 3-point shooting team, wouldn't you?
I mean, 37%, 36% is not terrible.
I'm talking about just like, I'm asking you. I'm looking at the stats here and they're surprising to me too. But like, if you had asked me before the show, before I did this research on it, is Arizona State a good 3-point shooting team? I would have told you no chance. I've watched enough Arizona State games this year where I don't trust them from three.
They're better than the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say they're bad.
I mean, they're 81st in the country in 3-point percentage right now.
So above
they're
average.
Pretty good.
Above average.
Yeah, that's above average. I mean, that's a decent 3-point percentage. And then you look at Arizona and they're shooting 2 less threes per game than ASU is.
Sorry to derail this. Do you know what Adam Miller is shooting from 3?
No, I have
Just
no
guess.
clue.
Guess.
I'm guessing because you're asking me this that it's going to be like some shockingly pretty decent percentage.
This is why they're 81st.
Yeah.
45%.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
That's insane.
That is actually insane. That's probably better than his actual shooting percentage, is it not?
It's about the same. His shooting percentage is 45.7.
Adam Miller having a decent little year there.
For sure.
I think looking at that, it seems like he's got to take more threes. I don't even know how many he's taken, but 45%, I need more out of you, brother. I really do. ASU, who does ASU play tonight, Shane?
They're at home against Houston. This is the game they win, by the way. Here's also a fun game. This is
Arizona State first half money line.
Yeah. Well, here's also a fun game. Guess what they're favored, or guess how much Houston's favored by. What would you set the line at?
ASU at home, right?
Yeah.
I'd set the line somewhere at Houston minus 14.5.
Yeah, I would say like 16.
Yeah.
ASU's only 11-point dogs.
Yeah. Everybody, if you like money, head on over to our friends at Bet365. Arizona State first half money line is cash. I've never been more locked in on anything in my entire life.
I also want some credit for saying bet the under in the Houston-Arizona game, and it went under by like 15 points.
Yeah, I mean that
was so free.
Here's what I say, and I did a lot of prep work with guys like I did our Locked On Cougs, which is the Houston podcast. He asked me how I thought that game would play out, and I told him that Arizona tends to play to how their competition wants to play the game. So if Houston, they want to slow the game down and just get gross with it, right? I think that's exactly how it's going to play out, and it did, right? 120 points scored in that game, I believe, which is pretty low. Arizona typically is in like the 140, mid 140s for an over under perspective, mid 150s. So yeah, it's definitely somewhat of a concern from that perspective. Yeah, I mean, the 3-point shooting is just frankly not good enough. I think that the positive thing that you can take out of this is that Arizona has an avenue to get a lot better at shooting threes. The only guy right now, or I would say the only two, that are shooting threes at a highly efficient rate are Carter Bryant, who's been over 40% in Big 12 play, and Anthony Del Orso, who, pretty much solely that's his one job that he has on a game-by-game basis. And even last night, and he had a good game last night, so don't get me wrong. He shot 5 of 9 from the field, 11 points. But 1 of 5 from 3 from Anthony Del Orso last night, which is, not exactly ideal because that's not his role is to hit those threes, not, shoot 20% from 3. So, yeah, while you really only have 2, I'd say, kind of major threats from 3 right now, there's avenues to get better. Jaden Bradley, he's missed a couple wide open threes in recent games that have hurt this team a lot, especially in that Houston game. And yeah, Caleb Love obviously is the most jarring one, right? Because Caleb Love is a guy who's a volume 3-point shooter, hasn't exactly been the most efficient, was fairly efficient last season, shooting around 35%.
Can you put some respect on Conrad Martinez's name?
Down. Yeah, Conrad Martinez. I mean, he could shoot, but he doesn't play really at all.
4 minutes? Come on.
Is that what he's averaging per game?
No, it's just what he played against ASU, and he hit the biggest shot of his life.
It was the biggest shot of Conrad Martinez's life against ASU. The shot heard around the world, Shane. That's what people are calling that Conrad Martinez 3. That game really could have gone a lot differently if Conrad didn't make that, I should say. But I digress. Arizona's guards are their 3 leading minute getters. We mentioned this last night, me and Kevin. KJ Lewis, Jaden Bradley, Caleb Love are the 3 leading minutes getters on the team. They're also, from a volume perspective, if we're like qualifying based off of people that actually attempt threes, probably the 3 worst shooters on the team as of right now. So you're going to need to find a way for that to change. KJ Lewis, I think it's a very injury-related thing. He shot in the 30% last year. He's only shooting 15% from 3 right now. I guess what I would go with that is I'd say that maybe there needs to be just a little bit of a mentality change. I know you need to hit threes, but as Reggie Geary told us, like the mentality has been, if we're not scoring from the outside, let's get it into the paint. Let's start, winning at the rim there. Excuse me. I think that's got to be what you got to do going forward is kind of focus more on getting to the rim. I think we saw that from Caleb Love last night in particular. He was definitely getting downhill, especially early in that game, and attacking instead of, settling for jump shots. And then another thing me and Kevin spoke about, which was the mid-range game. Jaden Bradley and KJ Lewis are completely different players shooting-wise from the mid-range versus from the outside. So I think those guys you have to focus a little bit more on the penetration and using your handle to get you some open shots there from a mid-range perspective rather than just kind of settling for threes over and over again. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out as the season goes on, because I'm of the opinion that if you have one of these games that we've come accustomed to seeing, like Kansas State, where you go 2 of 22 from 3, can that be sustainable? Can you win a game in March? I really highly doubt that's possible. This team is definitely going to have to hone in on that and get a little bit more efficient from the outside moving forward. But I do want to say that I like the stylistic change that Tommy Lloyd went through this season. I know it's maybe a little bit more boring at times, but it's definitely a big change from the Tabellis, Kirk Krisa led teams of the world, where it's very offense heavy. You're focusing almost entirely on guys that are offensive players. Umar Ballo is another one, and kind of neglecting more of the defensive side of the ball. This has been a complete change from that. All of these guys are almost defense first, essentially. I wouldn't call Caleb Love defense first, but he's definitely been better at defense this season than he has been at offense this season. So definitely interesting little mentality change there from this team in years past. I got a little bit more to talk about on the other side of this break here. But first, let's talk about some more fine sponsors of the AZ Wildcats podcast. Or actually, you know what, Shane? We don't have any more sponsors.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'll just shout out the companies. I just love them so much. You know, like I said, like I did with Bet365. You don't even need to have an ad read in there, Shane. I'm just on Bet365, just grinding away.
Just a shill.
Yeah, that's who I am, the shilliest of boys. Shane, I guess I'll talk to you a little bit just about how things are going for me, because as I unlock this journey of fitness from the PHNX Cardinals podcast. Make sure you guys.
What happened to your finger?
4:30. Oh, you want to talk about my finger? I cut it with glass. I had a friend over at my place on Saturday. He may or may not have had a little bit too much to drink. I was actually dead sober, believe it or not. And I was trying to prevent him from picking up the glass because he was intoxicated. And in doing so, my pinky got kind of sliced like I'd say about a good this big. Vertically, and yes, there was lots and lots of blood.
Do you need stitches?
It wasn't a good scene. I probably could have afforded to get some stitches that night, but I didn't, and now I think we're on the mend here. I think things are looking up. I as I've seen it the last couple of days here, and continuously cleaning it, it's healing. It's healing properly. Trevor Begay, off topic, but where's this T-Mac interview? That's a great question. Shane, we've talked about it a little bit, but I think we were kind of gearing up towards maybe, I know I did tease it and say that we were going to do it the week after the fact on one of our shows, our post game show when I came back on that Saturday. But I think we're gonna bank it and then use it kind of in a lead up to the NFL draft here as T-Mac embarks on being potentially the highest drafted Arizona Wildcat football player of all time. I would need to look into that a little bit more, but I feel like he's got to be, right?
Yeah, I can't think of anybody that's been. Have you guys had a top 10 pick?
I don't know. What about ASU? Who have you guys had that's been drafted in that range? Terrell Suggs, maybe?
No, I don't think he went that high.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this isn't exactly the best podcasting in the world, but I want to look. I do want to know who the highest drafted Arizona Wildcat is in program history.
Oh, Terrell Suggs was 10.
Maybe Chris McAllister. Chris McAllister was a first round pick.
Yeah.
I know. Terrell Suggs was 10.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, that's that. You got that guy there. Dude, it's so crazy looking back on this. Like, did you know Hilliard Crum went 30th round to the Los Angeles Rams back in 1948? How could you forget?
That sounds like a
Hilliard Crum.
No, that sounds like a really, really good Quidditch player in Harry Potter.
It does.
Yeah, it's Victor Crum's son.
It is that kind of that vibes. Walt Nielsen went in the first round in the 1939 draft, 10th overall, Shane. So we at least have that number to beat here.
Good old Wallaby Walt.
Yeah. Bill Lewick, first round pick, 1966 from the Green Bay Packers, is guard. As we continue to scroll, Mike Dawson, St. Louis Cardinals defensive tackle, 22nd overall pick in 1976. Lots of second round picks in here. Ricky Hundley was the 7th overall pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. College Football Hall of Famer Ricky Hundley, in and around the program still. That is now the new guy to beat here. Chris Singleton, 8th overall to the New England Patriots, another linebacker. 27th, John Fina, the Buffalo Bills, who my mom went to elementary school with. Shane, a little fun fact there. Chris McAllister, 10th overall, as I said. As we continue to scroll here, 27th for Antoine Cason. So, yeah, 25th for Jordan Morgan last year. So, yeah, there's been about a handful of first-round picks in Arizona football history. I believe we're looking at 7th overall pick from Ricky Hundley there is the man to beat. Can Petaroa McMillan escape, or not escape, but best?
I would be pretty shocked if he doesn't.
You think he goes top 7? The Panthers pick 8th, the Saints pick 9, and those are very popular picks for T-Mac in the NFL draft.
I was thinking 10. I don't know if he goes. He might. People love and who knows what happens in combine season. Stuff always changes in that. Like there's always some weird story. Something happens. Everyone falls in love with your Chop Robinson. Where's Chop Robinson? What's Chop Robinson doing?
Chop Robinson was really good this year.
Was he?
Yeah, he was on the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, was he actually good or was he just a Dolphin?
No, he was actually genuinely very good.
Okay.
The Dolphins lost all their edge rushers to injury, essentially. He started playing like all the snaps at the end of the season and then did you not see the chop celebration? The whole team does it in unison. They synchronize doing an axe chop. It's probably the coolest thing in football.
It is cool. But yeah, things happen. Like the things change so fast.
They do. They do. And you look here at the draft, I think a team like Cleveland could maybe use a receiver, right? But they pick 2nd overall. So I think that that would need to be a trade down scenario. The Patriots are probably the highest from their actual pick perspective of a team that would draft a wide receiver, right, at number 4. I think that's kind of that avenue that you look at. And I'll be honest, I saw yesterday, and this is actually some news that coincides with this, I think. At least it was where my mind went. T. Higgins set to be franchise tagged by the Cincinnati Bengals. The Patriots were going to be hot on his pursuit in free agency. Does that influence them maybe needing a receiver a little bit more in the NFL draft, in April? Definitely going to be something to monitor. What other avenue do the Patriots have of drafting a receiver or signing a receiver now? This free agent class is extremely weak. There's not really those high-end guys. And I'm not sure that with a young quarterback in Drake May, can the Patriots go through another season with Pop Douglas as their wide receiver 1 with Jalen Polk, who just probably had the worst rookie wide receiver season maybe in NFL history this year. After having a good amount of hype. I know me and Shane both liked Jalen Polk in last year's draft, and definitely made us look silly. But yeah, I mean it's the Patriots need a receiver bad. They need a high end receiver bad. Can T-Mac be that guy for them at 4? I personally, I've talked about it ad nauseum. Like, I would hate it because I had to root for Gronk on the Patriots throughout his entire career. But it does feel like maybe the best spot for him to be from a development perspective with a young quarterback who seems to have some potential in place going into next season. As of right now, I'm thinking that the Panthers or Saints at 8 or 9 is looking a little bit more likely for a team that is potentially gonna be drafting T-Mac, because both those teams need receivers pretty bad here. And you get Kellen Moore as new head coach in New Orleans. They're probably going to look to improve upon their offense. Bryce Young doesn't have a true number 1 threat over at receiver right now. T-Mac could definitely be that pairing. Shane, as a Bryce Young guy and a dude who has been holding on to his Bryce Young stonks from the moment he was a draft prospect through his disaster rookie season to his second season really picking up towards the end of the year. Don't you think that a T-Mac would do Bryce Young some good?
Of course, we need that. We need that in Panthers Nation.
Yeah, honorary member of Panthers Nation, Shane Diefenbach. Maybe T-Mac makes his way on over there, helps Bryce Young, kind of continue to develop and look better as we go here. That's going to do it for us today. I want to thank Reggie Geary so much for spending about 30 minutes with us. It was a lot of fun talking to him, a lot of fun talking to a former player, a guy in and around the program, someone who was in the building last night in Waco, Texas, to watch Arizona take down Baylor. Hope you guys all had a happy Victory Tuesday. Kevin, thank you for being here in the chat and still supporting, even though you're not, being here in studio and supporting. We still appreciate you, brother, and have some safe travels. We'll welcome you back when you do get back. Tomorrow, I believe we will be joined by Saul Bookman, at least for a portion of tomorrow's show. We'll be talking a little bit more preview going into BYU game on Saturday, and how Arizona can continue to win games here in the Big 12 Conference, the best conference for my money in all of college basketball. Thank you to Shane Diefenbach for producing today's show. Much appreciated. You can follow him at Shane Dief, I believe, on Twitter. That's DIEFF on Twitter there. So make sure you throw him a follow. Follow Reggie Geary. It's just his name. It's Reggie, and then Geary is Geary on Twitter. Throw him a follow. Shout out Reggie Geary again for supporting us and helping us out here. And give me a follow at Damon Dog. That's DAWG on Twitter. Follow us at PHNX_Wildcats as well for our main account, PHNX_Sports for the big account where you'll find all Arizona sports news. And until next time, we will see you on an AZ Wildcats podcast. But until then, go Cats, bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.